Ready Check Radio. What's up, Internet? It's Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. That means here on Ready Check Radio, it's time for the Relic Grind. That means we'll be talking about Final Fantasy XIV, Square Enix, and a bunch of other things. Of course, we're doing the show live, twitch.tv/Ready Check Radio. We've got chat here with us, ready to chime in. I'm your host, as always, Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magic Man, and this is episode 143. If you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Audible, any of the podcast platforms, thank you so much. While you're there, give it a like, a subscribe, thumbs up. Turn on those notifications and chime in the comments here. If you don't know where, check out ReadyCheckRadio.com. It's got the backlog of this entire show, the Gaming Gumbo weekly gaming wrap-up that we do on the weekends, and all the socials are right there for you to follow us. Joining me to go over all of it, as always, Mr. Chris Montoya, a.k.a. Tarkoth. What's up, sir?
Greetings, programs. Final Fantasy XIV. Hey, Savage is unlocked. Let's go. Now I can get all the stuff that I haven't gotten the last 9 months or something like that. I don't know. And we can talk about Wilds, because that's a Square Enix game, right? Wait.
No.
Damn it. Okay.
That's not.
It's another show.
That's not. But it is probably the only reason this show is not canceled today is because it happens on Thursday, not Friday. Also on the line, almost Friday there, Mr. Paul Berlin, a.k.a. Flynn. What's up, sir?
Yeah, just 2 more minutes and I'll be into that Friday life. Doing good. My local game store is running some more Final Fantasy now on Monday, so I've actually got a few decks. I'm actually playing a bit more.
Nice.
All right. That's what's up. I was just playing last night or the night before with Torchwick on Octagon while he's at RIT. We were headed to tournament this coming or the next weekend. So remember, just a reminder, no Relic Grind next Thursday, no Gaming Gumbo next Saturday. We'll be traveling to North Carolina, Game Theory in North Carolina, for a 3-person team Final Fantasy trading card game event.
Ooh,
so yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. They did this last year, but I wasn't able to go. But so Torchwick and a friend of ours locally, we're going to be our 3-man squad going to see how we can do against, I don't know, like 28 other teams, something like that. It's about going to be about 100 players divided up over 3 teams. So like 90, whatever. But it should be a lot of fun. We'll keep you posted on how it goes via Twitter and all that fun stuff. So if you're interested in Final Fantasy trading card game, obviously stop here Monday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern. We do our live local gameplay from Four Horsemen in the mall at Robinson, just west of the city of Pittsburgh here. And either this Monday or next Monday on that stream, we will reveal our Ready Check Radio community spoiler. We've gotten another one from Square Enix and Hobby Japan. Thank you to both of them, so make sure you come and check that out. We are in the midst of spoiler season. Card of the week just went up today. Looking fun for you Warriors decks fans if you haven't seen it yet. But the anniversary or the legacy kit, by the way, comes out tomorrow.
I have got one set aside to pick up when I go to
a great way to get some reprints if you haven't been in the game long. It's specifically a legacy set with a bunch of staple cards from years past that are a little harder to get these days. So definitely a smaller set, not as expensive. It's just like 5 or 6 packs per box type deal. You're not buying a huge booster box, and you're kind of guaranteed to get cards that you're going to want to use in certain decks.
I guess it's going to be the size of like one of these.
Yeah, it's if you bought their Square Enix's, what was it, the digital collections, where they had the NFT cards in there too, it's going to be about the size of that box. It's great. What's up, Tetro? How you doing? So, by the way, let's move on and talk about some actual Final Fantasy XIV stuff. We did get a patch this week, 7.18. Not a ton in it. Really just kind of like the demarcation of the PvP seasons, really, and all their stuff there. But there's some miscellaneous stuff. And Tark, you kind of mentioned the old Savage. How is that stuff going for you, by the way? Let's get a little update from you.
I finished Savage like 3 months ago, so like the fact that
No.
it's
Your
now
current prog. Your current prog.
Oh, well, I'm doing Ultimate for
Yeah.
we got to Enrage last night, sub 5%. So we're hoping with everyone alive, no weakness, we can have it done tonight. Yay!
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, 718. Not really a whole lot to talk about here.
No.
If you haven't farmed up all your Savage stuff for it to be immediately replaced next patch, do so now.
Yeah, do so now.
Funny enough, my group is still in
entrance
M2,
restrictions.
So we get a skip now to jump in, so it's semi-relevant for my group. This would have been nicer 10 weeks ago.
Weekly restrictions obviously removed. Weekly entrance restrictions removed as well. So all the usual stuff as we head into .2 coming about a month. About a month. So probably what do we say? Like March 25th?
It's going to be 4 weeks from Tuesday.
Yeah, March 25th. Yeah. So thing is, and by the way, I mean the tombstone thing, the Moogle treasure trove is back. So we'll get to that in a second. And that usually is kind of like, when does that end? Okay. Yep, we know when we're at the patch. Yep, we know when things are going on. There is a new emote though, and you don't have to do anything to get it if you want to snag this. We've got the camera emote, pulling out a camera thanks to a partnership with Instax. So if my kids have these Polaroid. They're like, oh, these are so cool. I'm like, this is how we took pictures back in the day.
That or a disposable Kodak,
Yeah, I mean, my dad was like a professional photographer. So like I grew up with, very expensive Canon cameras and huge telephoto lenses and stuff. And there's a shot of my dad on the sideline for like a Pittsburgh Steelers game, taking live game shots and stuff like that. But then, yeah, I think I got to use those maybe like half a dozen times. I totally lived the Polaroid disposable camera life where you could always surprise somebody with like the last 2 pictures because you never finished a roll, right? So you just snap 2 great pictures and then trade them in. There's also a little sweepstakes running if you, it's like a screenshot campaign via Twitter. So snap a picture and maybe be one of 10,000 winners who will receive an in-game item for that too. I do have to ask this though. Like, cool. By the way, you don't have to do anything to get this emote. It's just part of the package. Just log in and it's there in the emotes package. I feel like we have had so many more like brand crossovers with Final Fantasy in like the last year or so compared to previous years. And obviously, right, when something starts attracting millions and millions and millions of eyeballs, then companies want to get in on that and get in front of those eyeballs. The company owning the product that has million of eyeballs like to get some money for letting those companies in. But do things like this like just slowly kind of push you away from playing Final Fantasy or any game that does this? Obviously we saw Rocket League and League of Legends and those competitive things kind of do this. And they're on a little bit of the downturn now. But is there a danger for you as a player, whether it's Final Fantasy XIV or not, Tark, when you start seeing too many brands trying to get in front of your eyeballs while you're trying to play the games?
Too many? I think there is a danger for too many, but I don't think 14's hit that point. I mean, if you were having
some ridiculous crossovers when you think about it.
I mean, yeah, but like some of those crossovers are like QVC crossovers, so like you don't have to be involved with that if you don't care. I would think if there was like a crossover or like a special event that was happening like once a month that lasted for a week, I mean, then we'd be like, okay, come on, it's a little too much. Like, but I don't think we're at that point. So I get excited when there's cool crossovers that I can, take advantage of, like Monster Hunter World and Rathalos. That was freaking cool. But yeah, I'm not at a point where I'm like, this is too much. So,
Flynn,
at least not in 14's world, but there have been some games I've played where it's like, oh god, was it with these adverts just everywhere? Certain games, I understand.
So I mean, I asked the question just to start the discussion, but I'm with both of you. Like 14, I don't think has been very egregious on it yet.
Yeah, like Tortrick and Chad is the case of it exists. If you didn't watch a live letter, you don't know it exists. You're okay.
Yeah, I mean, like we had the 14 guitar, we had the black milk clothing. Like those are all things outside of the game. If you really follow the game or watch a podcast like this, of course you know the watches, the different jewelry, the stuff like that. Yeah, in game has been not to say that there hasn't been silly ones. Yeah, there was that like $3,000 guitar, Torchwick, the Fender, wasn't it?
Yeah,
or Gibson. What was it? Fender or Gibson? I don't remember.
Fender Stratocaster.
It was Fender. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
want to make sure I get it right. But then, like, I asked the question, but then I'm the asshole that's like, "Hey, Insomnia Cookies, how you doing on those Final Fantasy boxes?" Like, and it wasn't Final Fantasy 14 related, but I got my ass there. And then Torchwick and I going to get boba and coming home with like, we had to be wrung out 3 different times to make sure we got all of the codes that we wanted for 14. Nice. So.
Yeah, the only one we're missing in the West is the KFC one. It's like, we want our chicken to ride around on.
See, at least that KFC one, it's more nationwide, whereas some of these ones like Insomniac, they're more regional. Like Insomnia Cookies are not everywhere, unfortunately. Where it starts to get a little weird is when you have those ones that are like the Butterfinger ones. Buy 5 Butterfingers for $5. Yeah, the Mountain Dew one was a little much. But hey, I got my zoom out. You know,
I got the Mountain Dew one. I mean, yeah, I got both of the mounts too, but the Mountain Dew one for like the physical merch, I was like, this is some great physical merch, but
yeah,
I am not buying $250 worth of Mountain Dew. I'm not going to drink.
My issue with that is like
he says as he sips his Mountain Dew Zero. This podcast not brought to you by Mountain Dew Zero, but it could be if you wanted to.
Yeah, sponsors us, you sons of bitches. My problem with the Mountain Dew one is that, you know, unless you bought a crap ton of Mountain Dew right away,
they were gone.
The physical merch was gone in like 2 weeks. So like, I was like, all right, I'm gonna get like 2 Mountain Dews. This, you know, campaign runs till December of last year. You know, I'll get some stuff near October, November. I'm saving up, and no, just everything was gone. They never restocked any physical stuff, and I was like, well, this just sucks. I have all these caps for nothing.
Yep. 14 been all over the top with in real life collabs, says Takal. Yeah, they kind of are all over the place. Anybody that wants to give Square Enix money, they're like, let's go. Yeah. Let's go.
I need that 14 camping set though. Let's do that.
Oh my god.
There's definitely some really cool IRL ones, but I'd say there's like, yeah, I need to sell everything I own to buy off of this.
Yeah, then we had the cup noodles in 15, and we had the camping gear in 15, and again now in 14. So it's like sometimes it's a bit much. Sometimes it's funny. But
yeah, the 15 one, the way they approached that was weird. It's like, because I've been playing the Yakuza series for a few years. It's like, yeah, you just go to a vending machine and buy a can of Boss Coffee or Red Bull, and they use products, but then you walk away and it's just not thrown in your face. It's not having the main character crack open a Red Bull and say, I got wings now in the cutscene.
So remember we thought it was a little odd that Yoshi P had specifically mentioned in the live letter that like, hey, you know, you might see event art that has Scions in it, and we just want to call out that doesn't mean Scions are necessarily involved in the event. And they said that it was going to start with Little Ladies Day 2025, which kicks off next week on March 3rd. You'll have 2 weeks to run that seasonal event. And yeah, the key art like literally has Thancred and Minfilia of all people.
Old school Thancred and Minfilia, who rest in peace. Sorry.
Yeah, right.
It makes sense in a way.
I will say though. Go ahead. No, you're right. Go ahead.
Yeah, all of our like Psychon like this outside of the Rare Theory, it's all around level 15, so it makes sense to have the time lock of when level 15 story is.
Maybe. Yeah. I think you're stretching there, homie.
Yeah.
Valkyrie hasn't got his little brain necklace. It fits.
They will not be involved in the event. They're just there in the key art and to make everybody sad that Minphilly is no longer here. I will say though that I'm showing the outfit that's the reward this year. This might be one of the better outfits they've.
I agree. It's better than the PvP series one.
Yeah, it's a pretty dope little outfit there. I'm kind of digging that one. So you got 2 weeks to get it. Of course, it'll take you 2 minutes. It'll take you a minute and a half if you don't read it.
Don't be Tark. Don't wait till the last day. Don't wait till the last day like I did with the bouquet emote. And then, oh, wait, no, I got to do raid. And then you go to bed after raid. And then you wake up. You're like, God damn it.
Oh, no. You won't be proposing to anybody with a bouquet anytime soon.
Yeah, no bouquets.
You'll have to wait till the past event items. Yeah. It's a cool emote. I really like this outfit, though. It is one of the better outfits that they've put with events.
I hope the dying channels are good on that, if there are any. We'll see.
The icons on it showing the dying channels.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping they're nice, because sometimes they're just like trimmings, and I'm like, I want some good options here.
We also have the Moogle Treasure Trove coming back as well. That's already in-game. It started this past Wednesday, so yesterday, and will run all the way up until 7/2. So, as always, you get the irregular tomestones for doing shit you were probably already doing anyway, and some other things if you want to go grab some extras. And it's a nice chance to pick up a bunch of items you may have missed, or like I had to wait for it to come around to have the Taoist Moogle in it. I had to wait like 3 different events before it finally came back and I got it. Speaking of minions, this time around, it's the Biddy Duck Bill and Bacon Bits. So if you don't have either of those 2 minions, those are included in the Moogle Treasure Trove rewards this time around.
One thing about it being a collectionist, like we are, sometimes you don't need anything from the Treasure Trove events. Yep. Luckily, I need that bed. That crafted bed is in there, so I'm like hyped for that. But there's not much else for me.
Hades mount for me.
Oh yeah. See, like I'm just not a mount guy. Like it doesn't. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. It's just
me and a few friends
minions
did
though.
Hades and Sync recently, and it's still like a 7-minute encounter because of all the cutscenes.
Right.
Just like, this is perfect. We got a kill. Yeah, I'll just farm this out. It actually made me do my first duty roulette since just after expansion launch. So coming back in the duty roulette cycle.
A while ago, we talked about the Kugane Tower jump puzzle speed running, right? And there was some records going back and forth between Pint and Emoticon, right? They had been kind of going back and forth there. Well, Pint decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to get back in this, try to reclaim my record. And then this past week, we had an interesting video go up. I'm showing it here. It's hysterical. By another player, Stargazer, who was running their own speed runs in the background. And turns out, just as Pint was about to announce that they had reclaimed the record, Stargazer says, whoa, wait. I also broke the record by more. Knocked the record down to 36.4 seconds, and then 35.6 seconds. And then in just kind of an offhand comment to Emoticon said, hey, I've broken the 35-second barrier. And has now run this damn thing in 34.616 seconds. It's kind of amazing when you are watching it. It's literally amazing. And then just for good measure, does a complete spin around, jump off, and lands on the sightseeing log signpost at the bottom of the tower too.
Into the Heidelin emote, as you can see. It's just
right.
Just for the bragging rights.
Like the amount of dedication to do something like this, and the job swapping, because there was a Sakuchi into job change into Dancer Dash. Like, wow.
Yeah, there's some insane tech for this.
It's such a great video. Definitely go watch it. Check it out.
Poor
And
Pint,
then,
though.
yeah, poor Pint. And then so Pint did the most logical thing. Gave up.
Wipe his hands. I'm done.
Which
I
is
did my
just,
best and pass it on the torch.
it's just yeah, you got it. You got it, boo. I'm done. Like, I'm out of here. I actually did many years ago. Somebody in chat, Takao, saying people still do this damn jump puzzle. On my personal YouTube channel back in the day, one of the videos I did was a guide to the Kugane jump puzzle. Obviously not a speed running guide. Like, I was not speed running the tower. But it was just like showing you the easiest way to make some of these hitbox bad jumps, right? Because the game's just not really, as much as I love jump puzzles and MMOs, the game and its character models and its hitboxes are not really made for it. But that video still, like, once every couple of weeks, I'll log in and I'll have a YouTube comment on it. Like, it's still, oh my God, thank you so much. Like, I have no idea why it is so many years later, but that one still just keeps getting the views, keeps getting the views. Because I did have some neat little, hey, don't face where you're jumping, face here instead. So I'm glad people find it helpful. But yeah, people are still doing the Kugane jump puzzle.
It is
some faster than others.
Now.
Some faster than others.
I think you get a friend who comes into Stormblood, just like, as soon as you get to Kugane, see that big tower, you can get to the top. And there's been so many people who've joined my guild that have got to that point and said, I've just spent 2 hours trying to get up there.
I just wish the architecture was better for it. Like, I see Guild Wars 2 coming up multiple times in chat here. I love Guild Wars 2 jump puzzles. Like, they're so well done. The Nightmare Tower for their Halloween event, like, that's one of my... I don't play Guild Wars 2, like, religiously or anything, but I come back and log in every Halloween to just do that tower. It's so much fun. But I wish Final Fantasy's systems were a little bit better for it. Although then you have people running it in 34 seconds that are like, what? The system's fine.
Get good, scrub.
As usually people say, get good.
Yeah, it's just fine. It totally works. Hey, before we leave Final Fantasy XIV and talk about some other Square Enix stuff, Silicon Era did an interview this past week. Well, it was a little over a week ago, on the Echoes of Vana'diel raid, the crossover raid with Final Fantasy XI. They got to sit down with lead battle content designer Masaki Nakagawa and art team lead Yusuke Mogi, kind of talking about how they made some of the decisions that were made for this. Obviously, like, the first one, right, is why'd you pick Preesh? Why'd you pick these characters? Why were these the boss fights? Assuming that after we have all three instances of this, we'll have about 12 bosses, right? That's pretty typical. There's a lot of characters in Final Fantasy XI. How do you narrow it down to those 12 that you're going to put in the raid there? And was anybody from the Final Fantasy XI team involved in creating this? And apparently, yes. The answer was yes. Not only the Final Fantasy XI team, who was kind of the overall supervisor of the original concept and plot and in-game text of the scenario itself, but they were asked to provide a final assessment in ensuring that it was consistent with all their universe and lore and everything, which I think is really, really cool, because, like, they didn't need to do that, right? They're Square Enix. They could just say, whatever you want to use from 11, use. But then they also had players or employees on 14 that were incredibly active 11 players adding their feedback too. And then, like, Preesh, they just thought, hey, this is a character we think people will like, and you don't need a ton of context for where this character comes from to understand the kind of story we want to tell. And they gave her some of her iconic abilities. Like, it was a really interesting interview, Tark.
Some good stuff in there. I liked that 11 was actually, part of it, because, like you said, it doesn't need to be. So the fact that they're connecting the dots, and I think that really brought a lot of flavor for 11 fans. My boy peers in Ultima were kind of gushing about it. I know you've said some good things about it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Preesh being, the main character, the way it was told to me by my friend Ultima is like Preesh to 11 was kind of how Y'shtola was to 14. I don't know if that's right or not, but I'm like, okay, well then that makes sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that that's too far off. Preesh is the driving character in the Chains of Promathia expansion in particular.
Okay.
Not that you don't see her other places. You certainly do. But Preesh, Ulmia, and Tenzen, they're the drivers of the Chains of Promathia expansion, which, depending on who you're talking to, is generally one of the most well-received expansions for Final Fantasy XI, and certainly was the expansion that launched when 11 was in its actual heyday. It kind of started its downward trajectory after that, not because of necessarily the content in the expansions, but because now other games were options and the players were bleeding to other games. But when you only have 4 bosses, and they knew they wanted to do Shadow Lord, right? And then they wanted to do Preesh. So that now we only have 2 spots left. For 11 fans, they wanted to do the Archangels, which was, I think, Flynn, one of their better decisions, the Archangel fights, because we haven't really seen
that was good.
like team battles in Final Fantasy XIV. And that is something you see. Like, I remember I don't remember what dungeon it was in World of Warcraft way back in the day, where it was like, and I'm not talking about the raids. There were a couple of raids where there were teams, 5-on-5 or 5-on-10, 5-on-25 type stuff. But it was even used in dungeons there. And so it was cool to see the Archangel squad in here rather than just like some bounce in, bounce out one at a time thing, which they have done before.
Such a bad design on the formula.
World of Warcraft, I think the nomenclature was council fights.
Yep.
So you'd have a council of whatever. And 14, their dynamics is, especially with dungeons, you only got one tank. So like at that point, it's just trash. You're just gathering up all the trash and AoE it down. That kind of is how this fight with the Archangels ends up at the end. But there's still a lot going on, even with them all grouped up, and then they zip out and they, do guillotines to everyone's faces, and you wish for a better life.
They did say that these fights, by the way, have been well received by both 11 fans who like the nostalgia and 14 fans who just have no knowledge of 11. And so they will take that into consideration. But then that kind of left them with that 3rd spot, right? Like or that 4th spot. We know Shadow Lord, we know Preesh, we know we want to do the Archangels. What the hell do we put in there? Tetra, by the way, in chat saying Shantoto, I think, would be the equivalent of Y'shtola. That's fair. I would agree there. Preesh drop-kicked a god at the end of Chains of Promathia. I think that solidified her as the de facto frontline NPC like Lise. Also fair. And so when the team made the decision for Fafnir, why? And they said, well, all of the other bosses were humanoid. So from an overall perspective, we wanted to get a powerful giant monster in there. Dragons are a staple in fantasy work, so choosing one would allow us to create an appealing boss fight that would be easy to understand, even if you didn't know Final Fantasy XI. And this was just like, this is why I loved this raid series so far so much. It's these small things. We wanted to include at least one high notorious monster, which they're very memorable for us 11 players. And it costs them nothing to do if you're not an 11 player. Like, it's the stuff like walking into Juneau during the holidays for the Echoes of Vana'diel raid and hearing the music. Yes. To a non-Final Fantasy XI player, it's just they're playing some holiday music. For 11 players that walked in there, like, that's a really cool small touch nod that they didn't have to do, but is very, very cool that they did it. So I hope the next 2 are just as well thought. I have every reason to believe that they will be, Flynn, but I hope that they are just as well thought out.
Oh yeah, same here. Like, these fights have been surprising in a lot of the execution, and just a little note, like when you're going through Dream, Juno, or Reincarnated, you leave, whatever way you want to describe it. I've been those little shouting, looking for groups, the way the NPC stalk is. it's like connecting to that bit of 11 that I never experienced, but I can see where people like yourself would get a nostalgia hits from.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, overall well received. Tark, they specifically in this interview mentioned difficulty and the previous Myths raid being perceived as very, very easy, which it was.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that Echoes of Vanity was incredibly hard. But I will say that for me, there were, and I think I talked about this when it first released, there were a few mechanics that killed me a couple of times before I was like, now I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I get it. Particularly like Prisha's punch.
Yep.
And listening to say like, or to hear how many times she would say the Q line to get to know which, where you had to aim. Like there were some really interesting mechanics in there that did get me quite a few times. And so apparently people are liking the little bit of increased difficulty there too. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Going into this blind day one was fantastic. It reminded me closer of Vidark and the Rabanasta raids when they came out, where it's like, I'm actually going to run out of time in you. People are dying. And it felt good to get back to that for the, like, day one. No one knows what the hell's going on.
Right.
Experience. Versus exactly where it's like, oh, it's one shot. Okay, what am I doing for a week?
Torchwick in chat saying, "Hell, I finally started playing 11 because of these raids." Yeah, and then you haven't played in a bunch. Like I'm doing all kinds of stuff, and I'm doing it all alone right now.
That feels
Get your
like
ass on there.
That feels like a scolding there.
that's a dad scolding
Dad
his kid
talk.
live on the internet.
Lose your life to 11.
One more thing, Flynn, you added something to the show notes here. What's this all about?
The Chinese version of the game is expanding territories. It's now encompassing Malaysia, Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, Singapore, and other regions. So our world's again bigger. Fair enough, it's closed off to the Chinese service, but 14's growing again.
Awesome. Slated for release just sometime this year, I think, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, just 2025. No specific date. More players is always good. Switching gears here, let's talk a little Final Fantasy XI, since we've already been kind of talking Echoes of Vana'diel. Final Fantasy XI revealed the initial details of their March update coming up sometime this month. Remember, in the February update, they took Limbus offline because some of the changes that they want to make to kind of expedite a few things for very, very late game content just couldn't be done with the content live. In the March update, they're going to introduce some of the Limbus-related items for sale. So that'll be nice if you're trying to farm some particular gear or upgrade materials. Some of those will be a little bit easier to get. We will be getting the return of the Matsui P alter ego for a limited time. Love it. Love it. So you'll be able to trust for a little while. Unfortunately, just like past times, you won't get to keep it as an active trust forever. There's going to be monthly updates to Ambuscade, so we'll get new fights, of course. And then, this is an interesting one, and we don't have a ton more details, but if you're playing and you're doing Ambuscade farming and stuff like that, a reduction to the number of hallmarks and badges of gallantry needed to trade in for certain items. I feel like this one has been a long time coming because there's kind of a gap, right? When somebody first starts trying to get 119 gear, they're normally hitting Ambuscade, Domain Invasion, stuff like that, and trying to upgrade that 119 gear, but there aren't necessarily the best compositions of groups for brand new 119s to be doing Ambuscade with, so you end up doing them solo, which means that you're doing them on the easier difficulties, which means you get fewer rewards, which means it takes longer to get these things. So I'm very, very glad to see some of these changes coming for a game that's in maintenance mode, Tark. Absolutely in maintenance mode. 100% total maintenance mode.
Say that. I'm like, for a game that's in maintenance mode, they sure do get a lot of updates.
Yeah.
So good for quality of life of this continued game, and especially with it getting that crossover, like they're promoting the game. Like it's not maintenance mode, it's somewhere in between life support mode. I don't know.
Flynn, did you ever pull the trigger on purchasing it to take
Not
advantage of the discounted
purchasing
sub
it.
for 1 month?
Not purchasing it yet. Money's been tight this month.
Ah, gotcha.
But I have had a small nosy at a private server just to see what I'll be in for when I do pull the trigger.
What you're going to get into.
Chaos and not knowing what the hell's going on, where I am, or what I'm doing.
Right. So yeah, and my Final Fantasy XI adventures continue now. By the way, I this past Saturday, random stream again. Streamed it all afternoon before Gaming Gumbo. We speed leveled Black Mage from 0 to 60 and started grabbing its first set of artifact gear. I don't have the hat. I don't have the headpiece yet. It's the only piece I don't have. I was actually doing some of it before show because I forgot that freaking stupid Rhinostry certificate is locked behind some Windhurst quests, and that's the best way to get into where I need to get the headpiece. It's annoying. So I was doing that before the show today, and I'll be doing that after my call tonight probably. But then I will be a 60 Black Mage as well. So yeah, having a lot of fun. Still having a lot of fun in Final Fantasy XI. It's just one of those games, man. I log in and I'm like, what the hell do I actually want to get done today? What do I want to get done today? Speaking of other Square Enix game talk, Nier is having a birthday. What's up here?
Yeah, they're having a 15th anniversary coming up here soon. And with anniversaries, people get all sorts of hype because with anniversaries, absolutely for sure comes like announcements of sequels or remasters and stuff, right?
100%.
Like Bloodborne.
Like Yoko Taro.
So people are hoping that there's going to be some sort of sequel or something announced that's Nier related. I am not holding my breath. Like, I've been burned enough by Bloodborne, and we're still waiting on 9 and Tactics Advance. So, if something comes, awesome. But I'm not holding my breath.
I mean, they're doing a whole live stream, Flynn, on April 19th, so they've got to have something to say, right?
Yeah, Yoko Taro come right at the end and announce a PS1 remake of the original Nier.
We haven't had anything since Replicant in 2021. Yeah. So,
the re-release,
yeah. I don't know. They say they're planning to talk about upcoming events and merch, a mini concert of the series' best musical moments, and a discussion between the developers. I mean, the music portion alone is probably worth the entire watch if they don't do anything else. Or they could announce another $3,000 2B statue.
Yep.
Yeah. The A2 statue, right?
No, it'll be $200,000 this time to have it full size.
Full size.
I don't want to know what people are doing with that one. I don't want to know. I don't know. And it would kind of coincide time-wise relatively closely with the upcoming Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, which is scheduled for April 2nd. So the Direct for Nintendo Switch 2 will happen first. And, again, we've talked before, about not really a lot going on in the public-facing calendar for Square Enix as far as releases. And Stealth40K on Twitter saying specifically that Square Enix hasn't announced a game since the June 18th, 2024 Nintendo Direct. And speculates that if they don't have a major presence during the Switch 2 Direct, I'd actually be quite shocked. Now, to refresh your memory, we did talk about speculation that both Konami and Square Enix were heavily involved with Nintendo for potential launch titles. Now, that's just a rumor. It's not confirmed. But how likely do you think, Tark, that Square Enix is going to play a big presence in the Switch 2 Direct April 2nd?
I think they want to hit that new platform, guns blazing, but with what I don't know. Like a remake and rebirth for the Switch 2? Okay, but like you could get that on other platforms and on PC, and so I'm not sure how much that's going to be a seller. It's got to be something new, and I have no idea what that's going to be.
Yeah, and particularly if you try to pin it, if you try to pin it towards launch, things become a little more complicated, right? Because we expect to see the Switch 2 in the holidays.
Yeah, September, October, maybe.
Yeah.
So that's rapidly approaching. So I have no idea because there's nothing in the pipeline that suggests that anything's coming out anytime soon. Kingdom Hearts 4, but I don't see the Switch 2 really handling that very well. So I could be wrong, but
I mean, Flynn, I'd like to have the hopium, right, and say, hey, maybe this is the Final Fantasy IX remake announcement, but then I just can't imagine it being. I can't imagine it being a launch title, right? Like, I feel like it would be an announcement for a 2026 release. It would be shocking to me if they announced either one of those two rumored to be in development titles, by the way, key point, rumored to be in development still to this day. And then all of a sudden, hey, you're going to see it 5-6 months from now.
Yeah. Square Enix needs to show something. The fact that, June last year, for any new games, fair enough, they've been doing shuffling in the background with the studios and everything else. This should be a moment where they announce to the world, yeah, we're back, we got stuff we're working on. Get people excited for Square Enix again.
So some of the other speculation, Tark, you kind of mentioned Final Fantasy VII Remake Saga or some type of package coming to the Switch 2. There's already been some teases about that one, but I think one that we don't want to shortchange here is something maybe on the Dragon Quest front, right? The remake of the third entry obviously did really well, exceeded expectations, particularly in Japan, and most of the units sold were on the Nintendo Switch. Like, it wasn't even close to what the remake sold on PlayStation 5. We've got additional remakes that we already know are coming, so maybe those are the ones that get shown off at the Direct. And, of course, Dragon Quest XII is still out there and definitely in production, according to the team.
This could be the best place to do the first showing of that.
I think so, too, right? Like, maybe it doesn't make the splash, like, on a wide-scale audience, like a Dragon Quest remake. But what if they did, like, a Chrono Trigger remake? And they gave it the 3D HD or 2D HD, whatever it's called, treatment. We've all kind of wanted that, and it is something that I could see them doing in a faster timeline, right? Something that could have been being worked on for the last year and a half, and might be ready later this year. It'd be dope. Again, I'm not putting a lot of stock in it. I'd like to see it, though. That'd be pretty dope.
I think a Tactics remaster would be fire for a launch title.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I want to see it personally, like, is that the headline grab that we think it is? Just being Final Fantasy fanboys?
I'm biased, so yes. I'm biased.
I don't think it is. I mean, it certainly is for Final Fantasy fans and people our age that played Tactics on the PlayStation 1, or even people a little younger than us that played the handheld version years later. But I don't think you go into the Nintendo Direct and maybe it is. Maybe they're hoping it is, but I just don't know if, like, that's the grab.
But what if they put it next to Triangle Strategy 2?
Yay.
Yeah.
I loved that game.
Yeah, okay. Go out on the street and ask somebody what Triangle Strategy is. Don't tell them it's a video game. Just ask what it is. And if they say video game, I'd be amazed.
Name games.
I'd
Triangle
be amazed.
Strategy. Is that what they did with the Bulls with Jordan? Isn't that?
Or Square Enix did tweet out last week a single word.
Got everybody on fire.
Drove people crazy. And that word was just Yuna.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then everybody did their best Titus laugh.
Which immediately has spawned much reuse in very clever ways of the stay away from the summoner meme, by the way. All over. It's fantastic if you haven't seen any of it. And now we get to the question of, if they're doing something with 10, is it a remake or is it 10-3? Because remember, we've talked about on this show a long time ago a long time ago at this point. I think it was like 2023, 2021. We talked about the team from Final Fantasy X talking about how, hey, we do have the plot and everything written out for an X3, and it could come after the Final Fantasy VII remake is finished. Now, that was the last we heard of it.
Yeah.
So I certainly don't expect it to be released this holiday on the Switch too. But that might be, either a 10 remake or a 10.3 announcement, even if it is 2026, early 2027, or no date or anything. That might be a pretty decent announcement to be making, Flynn.
It could be. I just know the story's going to be all over the bloody shop.
Why do you say that?
Okay. 10, Tidus, Dream. Goes back to the far plane. 10-2, he comes back to life. In between the events of 10-2 and where they started working on 10-3, Tidus died again, got brought back to life along with Sin, but Yuna can no longer be with Tidus because if Tidus finds out Yuna brought him back to life, he dies again.
That sounds like a fan fiction that you've been creating and wanting to.
No,
you've been pitching.
This is legit.
That
they want to keep killing Tidus.
That sounds like a Kingdom Hearts spinoff.
Yeah. And it loops all the way back around. It's a time loop paradox.
I feel like if you just had Eunice and Tidus sitting on a cliff somewhere eating ice cream, it would be a Kingdom Hearts game. That's it right there. Boom. End scene. End scene. Last thing before we head over to Love It or Leave It. Oh my God, Flynn, I'm going to let you do this one because this is just... if you didn't see it coming, I don't know what to tell you, bro.
Yeah, I can remember we talked a good few months ago. It's like, yeah, NFTs being done at Square Enix. And I looked during the show, it's like, oh, City of Genesis actually came out. All of us shocked that it came out. But now, good news, it's going away.
Thank God.
If you didn't see it coming, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
The fact that it came out and it lasted, 2 years? Like, props to them, but like...
It's going away in July.
Never seen any sort of gameplay or anything like that because I'm not getting involved with that crap.
Yeah. Going away in July. So that NFT collectible art, super valuable. Super valuable. Can't imagine.
And you own it. You own it. It's an NFT. It's yours.
Yeah, you totally own a link that takes you to a location.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go do Love It or Leave It. Love It or Leave It is the way we end every episode of the Relic Grind here. It's where we give you something Square Enix related. Could be a game, a feature in a game, something they said or done in a press release, or just something even tangentially related to Square Enix. And you answer whether you love it, want more of it, or leave it, cast it aside, never to be seen again. No fence sitting. And this week, I asked, as I periodically do, asked the host to come up with their own and surprise me with one. And so, Flynn, you put it in here. What's today's Love It or Leave It?
Final Fantasy's post-expansion trial series being locked to MSQ instead of side story.
So the 14 trials being locked behind the main story versus the side stories. Tark, love it or leave it?
Oh my goodness. I want to fence it because with Endwalker, I loved all the 4 references because I'm a 4 just fanboy. I don't know how it's going to be with Dawntrail. I do feel like we're missing big chunks of extra story that can expand out the world. But then I can also understand that takes a lot more extra time and resources to flesh out cutscenes and artwork and stuff to do that kind of thing. To when you could put it in part of the MSQ, that's cool. So if they're using those resources to help further along other content, I'm for it. I feel like we're missing something.
I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were serious. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna say leave it because I feel like we're missing, exposition on side adventures that are going on.
All right, I'll go next since, Flynn, this was your love it or leave it. And I don't want to fence it on this one. As a player, I love it. Or I'm sorry, I leave it as a player. Like an active player that wants more side stories and world fleshed out, everything, Tark, you just said, leave it. But as somebody who already, when getting somebody else into the game, has to be like, you got to do hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of content to unlock every little thing so that eventually you can come and do this stuff with us. I love it being there because they're going to do it anyway, right? It's not, oh, yeah, you've done the story, but now you got to go do this to start unlocking that stuff. But as a personal player, leave it. Absolutely leave it. I don't like it at all. What do you got, Flynn?
Yeah, I'm also on the leave it side. After the Shadow Word, after the Four Lords, it makes me feel like if they did the entire 4 story with Zero and put it as a trial series, we could have had way better story management happening to prepare us for the expansions.
They would have had to develop a whole nother story.
It also just adds to that feeling of we're getting less, right?
Yeah.
Like, and we've talked about that before, fewer dungeons and fewer difficulty modes in the dungeons. And then years later, they bring Criterion into the picture to try and mitigate that and add a little more challenge. But ever since Final Fantasy XVI and some unannounced projects we don't know started falling under Yoshi P's team and their purview, I still have this feeling that it just feels like we're getting less and it takes longer to get it. Mm-hmm. And no matter how many times they say this is not going to take resources away from 14, I still feel like it just keeps taking away from 14. And Dawntrail has, for me personally, and I know others feel differently, Dawntrail has been the biggest example of that feeling for me. Hence, me playing an awful lot of 11 and other stuff. Like, I am not engaged with Dawntrail at all right now. At all.
Fair.
Cal says, you know my motto. You know what the fuck you signed up for. Go do the stories. Go do the main story.
It does,
you know what
feel
you're
like
signing up for.
Missed something here. Like, they brought these Vidrals. It's like, right, that's going to be our raid series. That could be such a good idea. Monster Hunter-esque. We go take down some Vidrals across to the LR.
Right.
And but we get Beatrix, which I'm sure is going to be an amazing fight. But it feels like we are missing something.
That's going to do it for us here today. We won't be back next Thursday, but we will be back the following with another episode of the Relic Grind. Until then, Flynn, where can everybody find you?
You can find me over on Twitter at Flynn_Lowlight and find me over on Twitch at Whipping Crisis.
Tark.
Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all at Tarkoth Gaming. Find me playing Final Fantasy XIV most days of the week with a smattering of Dark Souls. And then I'm taking a break this weekend because there's that special event with Monster Hunter this weekend. So we'll not be on Ready Check Radio this weekend.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me right there at Magic Man 1, but more importantly, follow at RC Radio, RAIDEO, and you'll know every time we go live with a podcast, a random Final Fantasy stream, Final Fantasy trading card game locals, and any of our streamers just hanging out playing games. Until next time, gang, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers. Later.